Welcome, friends, it's the MovieFilm Podcast. MovieFilm Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian are talking about movies. MovieFilm Podcast on the radio.
He is quicker. He is stronger. Miyagi taught him well.
Secret of Miyagi family karate.
I don't get it.
Practice, you will.
Miyagi discovered the man within the boy. Now Daniel must discover the man within himself.
In Okinawa, honor very serious.
No more tournaments. No more cheering crowds. This time, the combat is real. Karate Kid, Part 2.
Welcome to a movie film commentary track. My name is Zachy Hassan. I'm here with Brian Hall.
Hey, how's it going, Zachy?
Brian, one thing I want to say before we start this commentary is that I am a man who will fight for your honor. I'll be the hero you've been dreaming of.
Well, that means an awful lot.
I just thought you should know that.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I would fight to the death in an ancient castle over your honor any day.
Oh, there you go. But we need some Peter Cetera music playing in the background too.
Yes, exactly.
For the full effect. The Peter Cetera song, "The Glory of Love," is of course the theme tune for the Karate Kid Part 2. I would offer a weirdly inappropriate theme tune. I don't know that it works for this movie.
I will be honest. I don't know that I've ever thought about the lyrics. What is it about?
It's what I just said. It's I am a man who will fight for your honor.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of works, but it's weird. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it was nominated for an Oscar, wasn't it?
It was nominated for an Oscar.
Amazing.
Although, fun fact, it was rejected by Sylvester Stallone for inclusion in Rocky IV, which is how it ended up in this movie.
Right, and instead he used Hearts on Fire.
Hearts on Fire.
Which feels, it's a banger in that movie. So.
See, personally, I think that the Rocky Drago fight with Glory of Love playing over it would have added a whole different layer of meaning to that movie, frankly. So
yeah, I agree.
I think it's a missed opportunity for the ages.
Yeah, if only we were on that timeline.
I'd like to visit that timeline, but we're in this timeline where the Karate Kid Part 2 exists as we know it. This movie came out in 1986, and it was a remarkably successful film. One might say, Brian, a blockbuster.
Yeah, this is one of the first movies I can remember as a young person. I was looking forward to like a sequel to something that I knew because I had already seen Karate Kid, and there was like a new one coming, and I was 6, I think, when this came out, so I was like new to movies and everything, and it was really exciting to me that I was going to get to see more adventures with characters I loved.
So you saw this in the theater?
I think I did. Yeah, wow. I'm pretty sure I went with my family. Karate Kid was like really big with my family. There weren't a ton of movies we really shared. Like my parents didn't show me Star Wars. That was something I found on my own and that sort of thing. But yeah, this was a series we all liked as a family.
Well, there you go. So it's a series that you will fight for its honor.
I may have to. I don't know what you thought about this. I recently guested on the Midmen podcast with Paul Shirey. I was stepping in for Sean Coyle, who's out for the week. And I said, yeah, Zachy and I are going to be doing a commentary for the Karate Kid 2. And he goes, oh, that movie is. And I went, so good. And at the same time, he went, so bad. And I was like, wait, what?
I think I will land somewhere in between you and say, so silly.
You know what? I hadn't seen it in at least 20 years. So there was part of me that was like, oh no. Like I have my nostalgic memory of it, but I haven't watched it all the way through in decades.
Yeah.
So I really did enjoy that experience, and I can't wait to talk about this.
Well, it's certainly part and parcel of the nostalgic experience that is 1980s cinema, and I would not change one bit of that, I will say.
Absolutely.
So hey, it seems like an appropriate moment to delve back into the Karate Kid franchise. What with the new Karate Kid Legends films about to hit theaters mere weeks from when we recorded this.
Mm-hmm.
So it had been a minute since we watched the original. I think 2019.
Wow.
We did our track for the Karate Kid. So
okay.
It's more than due that we look at the sequel.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're gonna watch 1986's The Karate Kid Part 2. If you want to watch along with us, you are certainly welcome to do that. If not, hey, we'll do our best to keep our conversation lively enough that you don't regret having hit play. So
that's the aim.
that is the aim. That's the low bar that we are setting. No regrets. So you queued up, Brian?
I'm ready.
All right. So we'll do the usual thing. We'll hit play on 3. So 1, 2, 3, play. Ready? 1, 2, 3, play.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I said, this was a big movie for me in my childhood, but I do have to admit, in the years since, because I think, you know what? I remember our neighbor made a bootleg of this for us. He took up the 2 VCRs, and I think he knew we liked the movies, and I remember him giving us this movie. And so I watched it a lot, but as I got older, it's the first one that I kept going back to, and that would be on television. And even during the pandemic, that was one of the outdoor movie screenings in your car things that I went to. It was Karate Kid 1.
Yeah.
So it'd been a while. When was the last time you watched Part 2?
Part 2, it's been probably 20 years.
Okay, so about the same.
Yeah. Like I when they released the trilogy they released the quadrilogy on DVD.
Oh, with the next Karate Kid?
With the next Karate Kid, and you got to have that. That's part of the canon, son.
I've never seen that with Hilary Swank.
Yeah. It's unbelievably awful. But
is it?
I would offer it's not a particularly steep drop from the third one, which isn't exactly. It's not brushing up against the Magnificent Ambersons or anything.
Well, see, that's my memory of that, because I remember very clearly seeing that with my family in the theater. Mm-hmm. And when it becomes, the villain, I don't know that I've seen it since maybe the 80s. And I remember it's like the villain has a ponytail and there's like talk of toxic waste. And I was like, I remember it feeling not of a piece with the earlier films and more like, the 80s, bad guy, toxic waste. You get it.
The Dynatox Corporation.
Yeah.
And that actor who played Terry Silver, who by the way, they brought the character back, in Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Which I give all the props in the world to that show for really making, this entire franchise feel like this big contiguous whole, this multiversal thing,
It's pretty, it feels like, even knowing that Chosen is in it.
Yeah.
And apparently he and Daniel are allies. I was like, A, I can't even picture it. B, that sounds like a thing you would hear and go, oh no, that sounds terrible. But that it works and that it's beloved. I can't believe it's taking me so long to get to it.
That's right. But yeah, that actor, Thomas Ian Griffith, is a year younger than Ralph Macchio.
Yeah, he's one of those cases, right, where he looks like a teenager, but he's really like 29 or something.
Macchio.
Yeah, Macchio, yeah.
Yeah, it's bananas. He's very well preserved considering he's in his 60s now,
Yeah. He still looks good, but in these movies, he has like a teen quality to him when he's...
And I would say probably that worked against him insofar as breaking out of this character.
Yeah, that's... By the way, I just have to call out, we're seeing sort of a... previously on Karate Kid.
This is the Rocky thing where they do the montage from the previous movie.
Yeah, and because it's so rad, I have to call it the shot. So we're seeing the Cobra Kai kids in their skeleton outfits. It's all smoky and foggy, and they're beating up Daniel, and Miyagi shows up. And it's just, the look is iconic, them as the skeletons. But there's that low angle shot with the kid with his arm around Daniel's neck as Miyagi is slowly climbing the fence. And I was like, damn, that is cinema. And I mean that seriously. Like I've been watching these movies recently, like new movies, and I'm like, yeah, the movies are fine, but there's no like panache, visually, and like that shot, and the fact that they chose to show that. We're seeing the henchman kid, instead of Johnny shouting out the stuff. It's like this weird sort of. It gives you this feeling that's a little off, and then you notice Miyagi creeping over the fence, and I was like, I love that shot. So I had to give it some love.
Well stated.
Yeah, but and I mean, this is just so rousing. Yeah, even if we're fast forwarding through the movie, getting back to the karate tournament, and you said it so well in our Karate Kid 1 commentary, where it's like this is just a little high school karate competition in a gymnasium deep in the valley. And this movie makes us feel like it's life and death. And now as a 45-year-old man, I still watch this feeling like the world is at stake.
Well, and see, so that's kind of because in the movie that we're watching now, suddenly it is life or death.
Yes.
And,
right.
And I'm a little bit like, I don't know about this.
I did have a moment. We'll get to that. I did have a moment where I thought if Daniel could know, like if he was not a senior, like if he wasn't graduating and it's like he had to come back and talk about his summer vacation. It's just like, well, I met this girl in Japan and this guy tried to kill me in a castle and I could have killed him, but I decided to let him live, like.
Anyway, what'd you do?
Yeah, what'd you do? I saw Epcot Center. By the way, okay, and so now we're post the final scene of the first movie, and I just want to call it this specific shot. I was like, so we're seeing Miyagi waiting for Daniel while he's showering, and those kids in the background are legit naked, which I thought was a choice. Like, you're like, hey, do you want to be an extra in the Karate Kid sequel, those PG-rated family movies? Heck yeah, I do. And they're like,
okay, take your pants off.
Yeah, literally. I was like, they couldn't just put it above the waist. It just feels like a just nudge it up 2 inches. It's like
that's really fun. I didn't even notice it until you called it out. That's really funny.
I thought it was a choice.
So this opening scene here. Now, many people think it is it was shot for the first movie and deleted.
Right.
That is not, in fact, the case. It was scripted for the first movie.
Right.
But they shot it for this one. And I feel like the giveaway is that there's no Elizabeth Shue in this scene.
Great point. Because I had kind of bought into that urban legend too. And that makes total sense. We're in his mother, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. And you can see wanting to have this scene. Like Miyagi kind of gets his little button.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like the E.T. ending, right? Like it's incredible when it ends with the ship flying away and the wind blowing Elliot's face and he's smiling and there's a rainbow in the sky. But there actually they shot a scene that goes after that. And,
yes, that's right.
Of course, Spielberg was like, no. Like the story's done. Like it can only deflate the incredible thing we've just set up. And so I could see the decision and take.
We have to call. You're from Reseda. I'm from Reseda.
Yeah, so we have these two little boys come up to Daniel wanting his autograph, and he's like, "Where are you from?" They're like, "Reseda." And he's like, "You from Reseda? I'm from Reseda." Like it's just one of those lines that just became like a.
It's a weird thing. I say that all the time, like randomly. Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Like I don't know why, but it just became one of those lines for us.
But what you were talking about, like John Avildsen, I think is real good at that, because even with the original Rocky, right, the original ending for that film was after the fight ends, the movie would have ended with the whole arena empties out and just Rocky and Adrian walk out of the arena hand in hand. And that shot of them walking away back to the camera, that's actually one of the posters of the movie.
Yeah, that's right.
But what he realizes, him and Stallone, obviously, the emotional high point is when Adrian says, "I love you." He said, "I love you too." And then the end, freeze frame. And so he had a similar inclination with Karate Kid. But I think this scene, I'm glad it exists and I'm glad it's part of this movie, because I think it's important not only in terms of tying up the Cobra Kai business.
Yeah.
But also, obviously, like if you look at the Karate Kid mythology, this scene ends up being very important when we look at Cobra Kai, the series, and everything else. But it also sets up, obviously, the end of the movie with what Daniel does,
Dude, oh yeah, absolutely. I remember as a kid, this blew my mind because I was seeing more from the night, the important night from the movie that I already loved.
Yeah,
and it was good. This
right.
is really kind of intense stuff, for at least for me when it was younger, like seeing this coach bully a kid who just lost for him, and then just seeing also what Miyagi is capable of.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
he could really do some damage on this guy, but he chooses not to because he
chooses to honk his nose.
Which is so perfect. But seeing him punch through those car windows and having the blood on his hands, I mean, I remember that making a huge impression on me as a kid. This was like a really powerful scene.
Well, John Kreese is one of these great archetypal 80s bad guys. You know, and Martin Kove. We just saw Martin Kove a couple weeks ago when we watched Rambo.
Yep.
And I always found him frightening. I think I said before, you know, I saw him at conventions, and I'm sure he's a lovely man, but I was always scared to talk to him because John Kreese was scary to me.
That's the vibe he gives off. I mean, I've said this story before on the podcast, but when I worked at a production company, I sat at a desk that was kind of near a restroom. And one day someone was like, "Hey, can you tell me where the restroom is?" And I look up and it's Martin Kove. And I was like, holy crap. Like because I haven't seen him in a ton of things. I know him mostly as Kreese from Karate Kid. And it was like the movie, like Last Action Hero. Like he stepped out of a movie screen and was suddenly in front of my desk. It was...
You should have been like, the restroom does not exist in this dojo. And then he just beats the shit out of you.
It would have been
worth it because you said that to John Kreese.
Exactly. And even having like a black eye from Kreese, like...
You say that to him, you have his big smile. We cut to you like with like a bandage around your head and a black eye and broken teeth as you tell that story to somebody.
That's so funny.
And then I told him I love Daniel's suit here, his Dumb and Dumber suit that he's got on here.
I was wondering about this. I don't get the whole blue ruffled shirt tuxedo thing, because usually it's played kind of for laughs, but when it existed, I was a little too young to kind of know its place in fashion history. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I get that it's kind of a joke, but I guess in this movie in 86, I'm like, is this a joke or is this a remnant of something?
I just assumed that's how people dressed back then.
Exactly, you know? But then it seems to get played for laughs in certain things a little later on too. So it's...
Yeah, not that much longer later, by the way, you know? Like,
yeah.
But I love how the first movie really invests us in his relationship with Allie.
Yes.
And young love and just the heartbreak. And then this movie, within 3 minutes, like, what a bitch.
It's very indelicate the way that they I mean, literally, it's like for all intents and purposes, first scene of this news story, and literally it's like his car is like completely damaged and the bumper's hanging off, and he's like, so you know that girl that I spent the whole movie pining over and that the audiences love? Well, she crashed my car, she cheated on me, she killed my mom, you know. And you're like... And I was like, the movie goes hard.
Right.
Like, I remember her, forget her.
We hate her now.
Yeah, and you should too. Moving on.
Yeah, apparently they wanted her in this movie in some capacity, but she went off to Harvard or something.
Okay, I've heard that story about her going to school. And I also heard a story from Ralph Macchio in an interview that apparently he was at a World Series game in the 80s or something. Mm-hmm. And Elizabeth Shue approached him and was like, so what's up? Like, why wasn't I in the sequel? You know, like,
really?
Why did something happen? Like, what's going on? Like, she was kind of hurt about it.
Oh my gosh.
And I guess he was like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a decision maker on these things. I really don't know why that was. And I'm sorry. So I think things were actually a little, it seems even from her interviews with her, a little awkward. And so it was nice for her when she got to return on Cobra Kai.
I'm glad they did that. And it was a great little storyline for her.
Yeah. It sounds like they did some damage control with her character. And yeah. You know what I mean? Like, well, when I say damage control, I mean from the writers of this movie's what they did, because they were like, okay, well, that's Daniel's point of view, but here's her point of view of what happened.
Yep.
And which I think is a nice way to go about
it. I'm like envious of you because you have not yet watched the majority of Cobra Kai.
Yep. And
you have just a lot of fun TV waiting for you.
I can't believe I haven't, because I love these movies so much. So yeah, maybe that'll be soon.
Well, it really that's the fun of watching this movie to me, is that I can take in all of its sort of eccentricities and things that, you know, the eye rolly bits, and be like, but you know, it's part of that great tapestry, you know,
right?
And it's these are the threads that make the sweater that we see in Cobra Kai, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's
really
cool.
like that. Yeah.
It is funny too, watching Daniel literally like the night after prom, and Miyagi's like, "Hey, cool. Hey, here's a hammer." Like, it's funny. Just as like even a viewer of the movie, I was feeling like, ugh, I'd be so exhausted if someone did that to me. But it's the sweet reveal that he's building a guest house for Daniel.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly. Well, and this is the thing, right? I said this during our Karate Kid Part 1 commentary track. Like, you really, like, you watch it and you just say, we would all hope to have a friend like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also feels, I was realizing this story is kind of a Back to the Future 3 sort of story.
I had that exact thought.
Right?
Totally, yeah.
Where we're getting...
like, Daniel's like the guest star in this. This is really the Miyagi story.
Yeah, yeah. This is the mentor's story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's... Well, I mean, we'll debate how it ranks or whatever. But like, I certainly enjoy the performers, and I enjoy seeing the characters, and I like the business that they give them. The execution we can debate, but but I also thought, well, isn't that so? It made me think of Back to the Future 3, but I also thought, what an interesting time, because Back to the Future probably came out while they were shooting this movie.
Yeah,
and you just don't like having this young teenage kid and like a much older mentor. It's just not a dynamic you see much anymore. And maybe it might even be thought of too, like, cynically these days, or like, well, what's the story with that? That doesn't make any sense. Or like,
that is he such a good point,
right? Like, is he a creeper? And it's like, no, it's just not like that. Like, it's just, I love that Doc and Marty and Daniel and Mr. Miyagi are these really compelling and believable duos.
Yeah.
I really buy the genuine affection and respect that Daniel and Miyagi share. And it's beautiful, honestly. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, there was a TV show, maybe you remember it. It was called My Secret Identity. You ever heard of that?
No.
It starred Jerry O'Connell.
Okay.
And this is back when this is like post Stand By Me, but he was post dork phase. But he plays this kid who has a neighbor who's like a wacky scientist, and he ends up getting superpowers. Jerry O'Connell, and that's the show. It's him and the wacky scientist. And I was like, that was just a trope that it, like, growing up, I was like, oh, the kid and the wacky scientist neighbor between Back to the Future, My Secret Identity. It just felt like a thing.
Right.
And then you realize, I guess that's not as much of a thing. This is a very specific thing,
Yeah, and I mean, it even seeps into like comedians now, sort of looking back. Even though Back to the Future is much beloved, but it's like, what? How were they friends? Why were they friends? What was really going on? It's like, I don't know. Like, I never questioned it before, and every time I watch it, still to this day, I believe it, and like wish I had a relationship like that in my life.
That's
like,
true.
It's kind of nice.
I bet you do you wish you had a relationship like Sato in your life? This guy's complicated.
He is complicated.
I'm going to say he's bipolar, honestly.
Well, I mean, for something that he's held on to for, I think, 40 years or something.
Yeah. I'm like, bro, let it go, man.
Yeah, he has a very either Ebenezer Scrooge or kind of turn at the end. But but I was going to say, it's interesting too that we get both the same director and writer back for the sequel. Yes,
that's right.
Which is nice. I think sometimes
for all three of these.
Yeah, like sometimes I feel like you can sense a little tonal shift when it's in new hands. And well, actually, as I'm saying this out loud, maybe there's a tonal shift in this movie too.
I would say so.
But I don't know. There's just something that it retains that I like, and I think it's interesting.
Well, if I can just. I think what that tonal shift points to is that I think they realized we basically ran out of premise at the end of the first movie.
Sure.
At least insofar as what we can have Daniel get up to.
Right.
And so it was kind of like, well, there was nowhere else to go but Mr. Miyagi's backstory.
Right.
And as a grown-up now, I'm like, well, that is more interesting to me in this movie.
Sure.
All the Miyagi stuff is pretty interesting. Anyway, sorry, go on.
No, it's true, because I mean, you're right. I mean, what would it, like, Daniel works at Hot Dog on a Stick in the summer, and then there's like a bully at in the food court.
Once you win the All Valley, there's not
it's a good point, especially
you can
with
do that
age.
again, I guess, which they tried to do.
Yeah.
to varying results,
Yeah. No, I agree. It does feel like, well, I did read that there was thoughts about maybe there's like the Crease revenge story.
Which they did.
Which, you mean in the opening?
No, they did it one movie later. Karate Kid 3.
Oh, yeah. See, again, I barely remember it. I do remember when he's and his girlfriend are like rappelling to like get a tree, and they like cut his rope or do something.
Man, it's pretty like these kids got to relax a little bit. They needed a little Nintendo in their life or something, because
yeah.
I wasn't doing any of that shit when I was that age, because I was busy trying to defeat Super Mario 3,
Right. Yeah.
Worry about cutting people's ropes and breaking their bonsais and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's true. But yes, I agree. I think it does feel natural then, like, all right, well, let's study Miyagi and his story now. And we got little teases of it in the first movie. So
yeah.
And it's funny because, again, as a 6-year-old, I didn't find this movie boring. I enjoyed it.
Right. That's interesting. That's a good point, because this is measurably slower than the first one, far less action-packed than the first one, and yet my recollection is that it was fairly well liked when it came out by the kid audience.
Because then there were action figures to follow, which I had.
Right, yeah.
The video game, which I remember playing. I remember playing the Typhoon level on the Nintendo game, and then there was an animated series.
Yeah, well, that was like 89. That was after the third movie. But I remember the video game. I think it was the NES one, where it had, or no, it would have been the computer game. There was like a thing where you would have Daniel break the ice.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was in the Nintendo one too.
Okay, it was the Nintendo one,
and that was like the coolest thing when I was a kid. I mean, that was scene, and I gotta say that scene I think still holds up to me. Is not just being a fun. Oh, I remember this. This is fun, but like just the way it's constructed.
No, I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah, I really
agree.
Love it. But yeah, I was a little surprised. I mean, I knew this one didn't linger like the last one, but it has a 45% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Really?
It's a little lower than I expected. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised for like 65 or something. And part one had an 89% score.
But are those reviews contemporaneous or are they retrospective?
It could be a combination.
Yeah, so that's what I'd be curious about. Like, is this movie was this viewed worse at the time, or is it viewed better now?
That's interesting, because I did watch, as always, I watched the Siskel and Ebert review, and they were, if my memory serves, Ebert was pretty high on the first one, and Siskel was just high enough to give it a thumbs up, but it had thoughts. And on the second one, they both were a little let down, but still gave it thumbs up.
Oh, they both gave it thumbs up.
That's my memory. I think it was, but they were like, they had a lot of nitpicks. Most of their talk was nitpicks, but they were like, but these two are so compelling that it's, and then I also looked up the cinema score was an A-, which is pretty phenomenal. So that's where audiences were at.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it tells you that audiences had a lot more patience. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for a relatively slow movie with a few key action highlights, it's not like people were bored out of their gourds. It's like, maybe give people credit,
But isn't that sometimes the case when you watch these older films, even ones that we knew and loved as kids, and then you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize that the guy doesn't become the superhero till like 45 minutes into the movie, or we don't see Batman, I mean, we do, I guess, in the opening scene, but it's like that 89 Batman is a lot more patient than you would think that a movie might be these days.
It has one city block that we chase round and round, and God damn it, we were happy to get it.
Yeah, we stood up and cheered. But yeah, so I mean, I think you've kind of alluded to this. Well, I do like, by the way, I do like this. The he's got the Okinawa book and he's learning all about it. Anyway, this does feel much more like, well, the first one feels like an 80s movie, but this one kind of almost reminds me of like an 80s TV show plot.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right. There's like a bad guy and he owns the town and he's a bully and, people's behaviors and the actions they carry out. It does feel a little more cartoonish in this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
No, they did not. They did not actually shoot in Okinawa. They went and scouted locations there.
Mm-hmm.
but they found that it was just very run down and it wasn't cinematic.
Right.
And so they shot in Hawaii instead.
Yeah.
Despite what Conan O'Brien's producer Jordan Schlansky had thought.
So terrible. I like hurt inside for him in that moment. That was so bad.
This is folks, if you go to YouTube, look up Conan O'Brien, probably Karate Kid, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
You know, but basically his producer Jordan Schlansky was like this Japanese aficionado, and that affinity all started with watching the Karate Kid Part 2. And so he became just very insufferable with his knowledge of Japanese culture. So of course Conan took every opportunity he could to just dunk on him, and the greatest dunk being Jordan's assurance that it was filmed in Okinawa, but he got Ralph Macchio on the phone to say, no, we shot it in Hawaii.
Right.
It's just a movie.
Right. And Conan is just like, in your face. You know, just
he's like, your boyhood idol came out of my phone and shit in your hair.
Oh man! And do you remember when he presented the Lego Millennium Falcon to Harrison Ford? Then Harrison Ford dropped it on the ground. Every now and then, I feel like there need to be wellness checks for Jordan, because it's like, look, man, I love laughing at this stuff, but just make sure he's all right, and then we can keep going.
Jordan walks off camera, and Conan's like, I think I heard a muffled gunshot. Oh man.
This was a big thing that I remembered, because I remembered much of this movie, but I remembered the whole, big wood block that Sato was trying to break. And yeah, there's a lot of like memorable, I don't know, moments, iconography, whatever from this one. Chosen. So he becomes pals with Chosen, huh?
Yeah, it was funny, because I was thinking about that, because Chosen is pretty darn lovable in Cobra Kai.
Fascinating.
I know. And I'm like, man, what an asshole this guy is. I'd forgotten.
I know, he's so good though, right? Like he's perfect at this. Like he's like a kind of a, I don't know, just his attitude and his smirk, his cockiness, but he's also intimidating and deadly. And so he's the perfect foil in this movie.
See right there where he says, I hope your stay here is a pleasant one. Brian, I'm going to go on a limb and say, I don't think he's sincere when he says that. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a great reader of human behavior, but it seems to me he might be disingenuous.
I don't know, Zachy. Let's just see where this thing goes.
I was like, don't get in the car with the guy who says, I hope your stay is a pleasant one.
And who's like death gripping your hand.
Yeah. I'm like, don't get in his car.
That's hilarious. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed in Miyagi for not clocking this. He's the adult here. By the way, I noticed that the song, and I looked it up what it was called, but the song playing here is called Fascination Waltz.
Okay.
In the car, and that's the same song that was playing at the country club when Daniel was in the kitchen watching Allie dance with.
See, it's like a sign of danger. It's like seeing oranges in The Godfather.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. Yeah, never want to be driven into an empty warehouse.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're going the wrong way. No, it's the right way. I don't know, man. There's a lot of red flags here.
Right.
It's a red tarp at this point.
That is hilarious. But yeah, it's we got snippets of Miyagi's history in the first movie, but this is kind of interesting. We're learning about a lost love, and it's I like it. It gives a sense of like kind of tragedy.
Yeah.
I mean, there already was tragedy in the first one, but I don't know. I found all of this stuff that they added to Miyagi's story compelling. And then even if this is kind of ridiculous, this whole childhood, former best friend, now enemy over like some sort of honor code, like.
Yeah, Danny Kamakona, who plays Sato, he's sort of this like cartoonish,
Yes.
like he's like a Captain Planet villain in this,
Okay.
right?
Wait, explain that to me because I didn't watch that. What do you mean?
Well, just very like it is very over the top. He's got this voice, like it feels like an animation voiceover almost,
Sure.
And then again, we just flip a switch.
Sure.
About 2/3 of the way through, and I just found it hilarious,
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because yes, I mean they were in love with the same woman, and the woman was arranged to be married to Sato, and so there's some sort of like, and then Miyagi speaks up to the village and says his intentions. I love this woman, and I'd like to marry her. And so Sato's disrespected, and basically he now wants to fight him to the death. All these decades later, he's still that worked up about it, and
that's I admire the effort to be that worked up. 40 years later,
right?
I'm like that. I can't muster that much energy for anything these days.
Well, yeah, I mean that's where you can see this. Like, okay, I'm coming up with a plot, something about Miyagi, and you can imagine being like a white guy, like in the '80s, trying to write a Japanese story, and you're like, I don't know, like honor. Like
see, here's my thought. I feel like if it's Sato blaming Miyagi for the death of somebody close to him,
totally,
I might buy that.
Totally, yes,
right,
yes. Now, the love of a woman is compelling, but just add to that a little bit. Yes, yeah. Maybe there was some sort of accident or whatever. Yeah.
Like Sato's father died, or I don't know, something,
Yeah, and his last thing he experienced was this disrespect to his son or something, and that's something he couldn't let go of. Yeah, totally.
Because again, we're talking about Cobra Kai, where again Daniel and Chosen become friends, and pretty much the theme of Cobra Kai is like, let this shit go.
Really?
I mean, a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because in Cobra Kai, Daniel is on good terms with each of the martial arts antagonists in each of the movies.
Mm-hmm. Is he already there, or is the show about him getting onto good terms with them?
Well, it's about him getting there.
Okay.
Right. But yeah, because Johnny, well, obviously Johnny, but Chosen, and even Mike Barnes. Who's the guy from the third movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I like about the show. I think that's what people like about it.
Yeah.
But I think to your point about delving into Miyagi's backstory, I think what helps is that Pat Morita makes Mr. Miyagi such a three-dimensional character.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you think about it, he could have very easily been a cliche factory.
Dude, totally.
Right. Spouting these aphorisms. And I mean, he does that, but that's it,
But he does it in such a compelling way and a charming way that
he does it with a wink. Yeah.
Yeah. We like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like in the first film, we have the scene where he's drunk and he's telling Daniel, about, about what happened to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows us to really ground his character. And look, Pat Morita walked away with an Academy Award nomination.
Mm-hmm.
So you see why he came back.
Oh, totally. And in that Siskel and Ebert review for the first movie, Ebert even says, like, I would not be surprised if Morita was nominated for an Oscar for this.
That's amazing.
So that's like on first glance at this kind of popcorn family film. That's how strong that performance was.
And it was, and I think he knew that it was like the best role he'd had,
Yeah.
In terms of really getting layers to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of this stuff is great. What we're seeing here, the stuff with his dad and stuff. I love all of it.
Same. It is fascinating. I did watch Happy Days. I can't say I remember Pat Morita on it.
I remember the Al Molinaro episodes more.
Same. I guess. Oh, I guess I didn't even realize that it was one or the other. But same. And but it's fascinating because yes, so I know Morita mostly from Karate Kid, so I know this Miyagi voice. So it's always trippy when you see him in interviews, and he doesn't have this, affectation or accent or whatever at all.
Right.
Like this is a true character, voice, everything. It's trippy. It's like, oh yeah, love playing Miyagi. Kind of a vibe.
Yeah, I love the the behind the scenes doco on from like 20 years ago, and it's him. He's like, yeah, they sent me the script and I read it and I see this character and Miyagi, he just come here,
Yeah.
It's like
incredible.
The great thing is, especially if you listen to that commentary track, which is Pat Morita and Ralph Macchio. Mm-hmm. You're like, they're Daniel and Miyagi in real life. I mean, they genuinely loved each other.
That's so great.
And that was nice, up until the end, they were very close,
I love that. That's what you want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when we see Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd these days, and they still, whenever they have their arms around each other or something, you're like, yeah, man, that's the world I want to live in.
I mean, seriously, right? Because, at the time of Leonard Nimoy's death, he and William Shatner had some kind of an argument, so they hadn't spoken for several years, a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And who wants to hear that?
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and going back specifically to the Marty Doc thing, and related to all of this, the unlikely really warm friendship between people in such different ages, and that we buy it and believe it. I remember on Reddit, I was seeing a thing and it was talking about like most underrated shots in certain films. And one was Marty and Doc hugging in Back to the Future 1. And I was like, yeah, like that moment puts a little lump in my throat every time. And I believe it.
Yeah.
And just for something so that could just possibly not work, or you wouldn't buy, or you'd be like, oh, let's just have fun. I don't care if they really, are right. Like, well, I just wanted to see Marty get Back to the Future. He's too weird. Why would they be friends? It's like, no, they land it. And in some ways, Miyagi and Daniel are a little unlikely too, but it's like you completely buy their connection.
It's very true. Yeah. It's tricky, right? It's tricky to pull off.
No, absolutely. And I don't think it always works like that. I mean, it's in both cases, I would classify them as lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's so great, isn't she?
Yuki? Yeah. I love her. She has got great chemistry with Pat Morita.
Yes.
This is Nobu McCarthy, by the way. She was a model before this, and she by this time she was only doing stage work. But they're a very cute couple. You like seeing them together.
Yeah, she isn't given a ton to do necessarily, but she makes an impression. And that scene we had with Miyagi and his father, and the way she has tears in her eyes, and just so much care, and also just wow, the love of my life.
Yep,
in front of me again.
Really I also really like Tamlin Tomita in this, by the way.
She's very good. Yeah. Yeah. I remembered her from sort of her key moments, but I didn't remember the performance really. And I thought it was great.
Yeah, she's another actor who, she has continued acting up to this very day. I mean, she was just recently on one of the regulars on The Good Doctor.
Oh, interesting. Oh, great.
And they brought her back on Cobra Kai, too, actually.
Dude, what am I doing?
Right?
Well, maybe this is perfect. Maybe this is what I'll do. I'll watch 3 now that I'm sort of caught up on 1 and 2. Watch 3 because you gotta. And then maybe I'll start the series.
And then just roll right in.
Yeah.
Like the only piece of Karate Kid lore that show did not plumb. Well, I guess the Jackie Chan movie, which is now retconned into being part of the universe,
Right.
But also the Hilary Swank one, they never. I think that was on their wish list to try to get her to show up on, but that never happened, unfortunately.
By the way, that drum, he's talking about, his father or his family and that drum being a part of their karate technique or whatever. So I remember my dad would go on a bunch of business trips when I was a kid, and he'd always, bring back something, even if it was just peanuts from the airplane. I didn't care. It was just something was always kind of fun to receive when he was back from his trips. And I remember one time he came back and he had 2 of those drums for my brother and I. And it was blew my mind. Now you can go in gift shops and you see them. or probably even then, I mean. But like for me, it was like this special, unique thing to this movie that like I couldn't believe I was holding in real life, and I loved that drum.
And then you stepped up to the bully at school. Cut to you with the bandage around your head and the black eye.
Exactly.
So I started spinning the drum.
Yeah. But he didn't wait. Like
he wasn't momentarily confused as I expected him to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was admittedly my mistake, but yeah.
Yeah. It would be funny to try some of these techniques, and like the sort of like praying, concentrating your focus, breathing thing he does later with the ice. And like some guy like, give me your lunch money. I'm like, and just doosh, 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 doosh. Plop.
It reminds me that SNL sketch with the Andy Samberg as the superhero. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And Jason Sudeikis just punches him in the face 50 times in a row.
It's like 1 minute of Sandberg talking about how he's going to clean up the streets as a superhero, and then 3 minutes of him getting like punched in a row by Jason Sudeikis. It's so good.
Oh man.
Man. Have you ever been to Hawaii? Oh, you went there for your honeymoon.
I went there for my honeymoon. Yeah.
Yeah. I as soon as I said it, because I have a mug you got me from there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've never been.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's expensive.
Sure.
But it's worth it. Amina wants to go back, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not paying for 6 children to go to Hawaii.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? They can either go to college or go to Hawaii for a week. So I don't know.
Maybe you can smuggle them in some luggage or something. Like a big crate. Put a hole in it. Here's a couple of straws.
That's basically what you have to do.
Yeah. It's funny. I was about to say something, and then I'm like distracted. I'm like, wait, what's happening here? I didn't want to like talk over something that might be. Oh yeah, Sato. Well, so it is, interesting too. Like he's like that. The cliche bad guy who like owns every part of a town and has the whole
That's
town
right.
under his thumb, and
he's got the nice suits.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always a bad sign.
Yeah, I mean, even at the airport, you see him advertising a dojo, and then you notice his name on an airport hangar, and then I noticed a brothel that I hadn't noticed before.
Sure,
on first viewing.
Every
as
bad guy has to have a brothel.
Yeah,
I think it's important. It's an important part of the repertoire.
Yeah. If you want to have everything covered.
Yeah.
But yeah, rewatching this,
I'm like, bro, settle down, man.
I know.
Are you freaking kidding me? You know?
See, but that's the thing, because I did remember the stakes. I remember there was a fractured childhood friendship that needed to be repaired, and I remembered, this bully and everything, but I didn't remember how heightened, I guess it was, or at least, especially in comparison to the first movie, right? Which feels, I don't know if grounded is the right word, but it's
right. Well, this is the thing, right? It's not grounded in the sense that it makes it seem a lot more dramatic than it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it is grounded in that it's just a tournament, So it's grounded the way Rocky 1 is grounded.
Yeah, and it's all believable behavior.
Right.
In that, kid breaks the boombox, and then
kids act like friggin' idiots.
Yes. Like putting the hose over him in the bathroom, and then getting the crap kicked out of him, and it's like all
you can write that off to Daniel being a 15-year-old moron.
Yes.
These are grown ass adults. Well, right. Miyagi's doing fine. He's not doing anything wrong. I'm saying Sato. I'm telling him, man. I think he needs to talk to a shrink.
Yes. Yeah, literally
this goes beyond the Miyagi ran away 50 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, literally over his Miyagi's dead father and father figure to Sato. He literally is still exhaling probably a little breath, and just like, I give you 3 days and then I'm going to kill you. I agree with you. I think there should have been some sort of death all those years ago involved.
That to me, as I was watching it, I was like, that's the only thing that makes sense to me in this context.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's a great note.
Like maybe the filmmakers were hesitant to have something as dark as that, but then I'm like, yeah, but you the final, the conflict is presented as a life or death conflict.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I mean, we were willing to go with different degrees of things in different eras. And
Right.
Clearly, I mean, this movie made 115 million worldwide in 1986 money.
Right.
Like you said, audience score of an A. Maybe this is exactly what people wanted out of this. Maybe they didn't want anything heavier than this. I don't know.
That's also, so, this came out the same year as Rocky IV.
Yeah, there you go.
And they both occupy the same lane of silly, I would say.
Yeah, but beloved,
So this scene here, clearly the inspiration for Thor: The Dark World, when Thor's mother dies, and they set off all the little lamps and everything. Obviously, it was a Karate Kid Part 2 homage. I'm just joking.
I was actually not sure.
How can you not see it, Brian? It's clear as day.
Well, you never know with Feige. He's he
I could see Feige actually doing something like that.
Right? I mean, if he was like, I don't even care if it makes sense. One person in this phase in every film will lose a limb.
Yeah, that's right. That's
just because I love Empire Strikes Back.
This is a nice scene right here.
This
I really
is
like
lovely.
This is another one of the best scenes in this movie.
Yeah. So we have Miyagi mourning on a rock, looking at the sunset, and he doesn't say, "Oh, it's so beautiful." He doesn't even say anything. Just with his face.
Yeah.
The hurt, and then Daniel's trying to relay a story about when his father passed. Which, I mean, I didn't remember this story, and so I was leaning forward, like wanting to hear Daniel talk more about his dad, and just in a way, he's the mentor in this scene. He's experienced this, and he can give something to Miyagi, and seeing the tears begin to collect.
Yeah. No, I like that they gave Macchio something to play.
Yes.
And this scene really demonstrates he's a talented actor.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a really, really beautiful scene. And literally beautiful. I mean, the sunset and everything.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, there's something I was gonna say. I forgot.
Well, while you think of that, I should mention, the score for this movie, Bill Conti. It's a terrific score. Yeah, look at the tears in Miyagi's eyes. Isn't that great?
Yeah,
right there. It's a great score. It really, I like how it leans into the Eastern influence, which is some of the best stuff in the first score. Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting that Bill Conti was the composer of record for the Rocky films, and when it came time to choose between Rocky IV and Karate Kid 2, he chose Karate Kid 2.
Right.
Which I was thinking, I was like, man, you wouldn't think he would have made that choice,
No.
I have to imagine it was some loyalty to John G. Avildsen, because Avildsen was who brought him on to the first Rocky, obviously.
Right.
But I'm glad he did this. Like, I can't imagine Conti doing the score to Rocky IV, because that's so married to that synth score in my mind. Mm-hmm. Right. So everything went the way it should have in that instance.
Totally. And I wonder if there was a little more to play with in doing a score like this.
That's true. Yeah, because by Rocky IV, you're sort of locked in terms of the themes, and you got to have the training montage music and the this and the that.
Yeah. Watching this is kind of beautiful. The silhouettes of them. I love that. I love the silhouettes of them sparring, and then giving like high fives to one another. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this beautiful shorthand between them now, and like a language that they share, and the karate and the like, yeah, man, high five, but I think this movie finds an interesting way to not shoehorn karate in necessarily,
right,
with the title being Karate Kid, but of course it does feature it, but it doesn't feel the need to like fit it in awkward ways. Like just having that moment, that feels organic. Like, of course they'd go into his dojo and spar a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think it helps that they're in Japan.
Sure.
And it feels like it would be a more natural part of the setting, you know?
Totally.
And well, this scene here where we're introduced to the drum technique, which honestly, I'm still trying to figure out, like, the drum technique doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like crane kick also doesn't make sense outside of the world of that movie.
Right.
Because, you know, I was telling you right before we got on, you know, the comedian Gary Goldman has this great routine where he talks about how, well, Miyagi's like, if done right, no can defend. And he's like, well, can defend.
Right.
Can defend. You know, drum technique makes less sense to me than the crane kick.
Yeah. Well, because we sort of see two different like displays of it. Like, right. Like here it's sort of like this getting out of the way of some sort of attack, right?
Right.
So
and what we saw earlier, with the drum, I don't know. This is why I'm not a karate kid, Brian.
Right. Well, yeah, we weren't so lucky to have a Miyagi. But yeah, later it just becomes like a way for Daniel to just sort of wave his arms and bash Chosen's head in.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I have thoughts on that. I'll hold those.
Yeah. But I sort of get it. If they had maybe like broadened it out a little bit and said it had something to do with your core, like planting your feet, you know, but agility in your core and, you know, being able to move out of the way of anything and strike back with a certain sort of power. Maybe they could have like honed it in a little bit and it might have made more sense.
It feels like they were like, oh, we need a thing in this movie.
Yes.
And, you know, I guess it's this, you know?
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that it's part of the repertoire of karate moves, you know, but maybe they just didn't explain it right, you know?
Sure.
There's also the fact that let's be honest, Ralph Macchio is not a martial artist.
Sure.
So,
right.
So, I mean, look, he is the Karate Kid, TM and copyright.
Yeah.
So nothing but love and respect. Hashtag my Karate Kid. But he does what I call teenage white boy karate.
Sure.
And so there is that.
Right.
It's not exactly Jackie Chan here, you know?
No.
Who does not do karate. He does kung fu, but still martial arts.
Right. Yeah, you know, I will say yes. And when we get to the Jaden Smith movie, I remember, which we both enjoyed.
Yes.
But
he does like a freaking goddamn Neo in the Matrix thing at the end.
Exactly. There's like wire work happening.
Yeah.
Which is a little like almost where you feel like movies were at in 2010, where it's like, well, yeah, but people won't feel thrilled enough if we don't see him do some sort of Matrix move. And it's like, no. So I do appreciate the authenticity, at least, of literally seeing Ralph Macchio do this stuff.
But I'm not saying he should be like Jet Li in Lethal Weapon 4. I'm just saying, like, you know, one presumes that a karate champion is more of a, you know, karate, you know, impresario. You know, he's able to do more stuff. You know?
No, I agree with you, because I do feel like, yes, then at the end, when we're watching that fight, it would be nice to see it like a wee bit more.
the fight at the end of this movie is some weak sauce.
Yeah.
That's what I will say.
It's also not quite the set piece I remembered it being.
No.
It's really sort of the stinger at the end.
Right, exactly. And I think part of that is we don't have like just banger after banger on the soundtrack. I think that's that's part of the problem. We need some "You're the Best" around.
Oh man, yeah.
In order to really get the blood pumping.
Always. I don't care what movie we're talking about.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So I thought this was interesting. So we see that Chosen is manipulating a scale.
Yeah.
As he's paying out people who are trying to sell their like vegetables or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's weird to me that the weight is like light or something?
I don't understand the scam. Maybe I just don't understand this movie, Brian. Maybe I'm just revealing, maybe I'm revealing myself as a dullard.
Right.
I was thinking that. I was like, what's this? Wait, what's the scam he's doing?
I mean, this would be terrible. It wouldn't work at all. But it would be more likely you would see a weight and it says like 5 pounds on it. And then Daniel rubs the 5 pounds and it really says 10 pounds. Right? Because then that means that they would have to be selling more vegetables than they realized and getting less money. And so I didn't quite understand what was happening there.
So yeah, right. Because if it's a light weight, and the weight is the counter scale for the vegetables.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
That feels like a scam the villagers would pull.
I feel like I'm trying to figure out the water thing, the water puzzle in Die Hard 3.
Right.
I'm at that moment where I'm almost there and then my brain breaks. So.
See, I'm finally, thank God, after our commentary, I'm now like Neo with I can see the numbers. I remember all you do is you continue pouring the bottle into the other and then you'll eventually get 4.
Yeah. But can you figure out Chosen's weight scam?
That's the new one. That's the next 5 years of my life.
Go ahead. Get to work.
Yeah. Yeah, going back to these movies that we sort of grew up, and of course, even movies earlier than that, you do notice when you revisit them that there's more patience.
Yeah.
In certain sort of scenes where they're willing to have scenes that are kind of quiet and just 2 characters interacting, which just helps us to understand them more. And you can sort of sense a lack of patience these days. Like, we got to get to it fast. The scene's not quick enough. We got to cut it tighter, Yeah. I appreciate that this blockbuster has nice quiet moments like that with Yuki and Miyagi on that balcony.
I think that John G. Avildsen doesn't get enough credit for sort of the humanity that he lends these films with,
Yeah.
Like it feels to me, I mean, like I knew his name as a kid because of Rocky and because of this, but I don't know that he gets talked about very much or mentioned very much anymore, especially, he hadn't directed a movie in a while before his passing. But I mean, I think he is kind of the secret ingredient, that lends consistency to all 3 of them.
Totally. And I'm looking at his IMDb right now. So I saw he did Karate Kid 3, then he did Rocky 5.
Yeah,
that's right. I'd forgotten. He did that movie 8 Seconds.
8 Seconds, which was good. Yeah, Luke Perry.
Yeah, and it's like a bull riding movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
by John.
I remember when that came out.
Same, and I'm thinking, how did I miss that? That feels like something I would love.
That was a good movie. Like that was. What's funny is that was at the time where all the chicks liked Luke Perry.
Yeah.
So therefore, I had to dislike Luke Perry. Right. That was.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't watch it then. I watched it about 5 years later when it was on TV on WPWR, and I really enjoyed it. And I remember watching that on TV and being like, "Hey, Luke Perry's a good actor."
Mm.
Yeah. And he was on this TV show a couple of years later called Jeremiah, which is like this post-apocalyptic show.
Mm-hmm.
He was terrific in it. R.I.P. Luke Perry.
Oh yeah.
One of the greats. But Avildsen's last movie was, I want to say it was like a Van Damme flick.
Really?
And it was like a while, like it was like early 2000s. Actually, Let me look it up. Let me look it up actually. No, 99.
Wow.
99. By the way, he was born in Oak Park, Illinois, John G. Avildsen.
Oh, wow.
But he died in 2017, and his last movie he directed was 1999.
Okay.
And I'm like, what a shame. Like, he just stopped,
Yeah. I'm looking at the screenwriter too, Robert Mark Kamen.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot more than I realized. So, Taken? I mean, it's kind of all over the place too. Columbiana, Transporter, Fifth Element, A Walk in the Clouds, that Keanu Reeves romance movie, Lethal Weapon 3, Gladiator, not the 2001, but the boxing one.
Yep.
Taps. I mean, that's, people might not know him by name, but it's like, man, what a fascinating career there.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is that, he he created the core of the Karate Kid franchise. So I mean, I'm hoping that he's getting some kind of payout for everything since then. You know,
dude, totally.
right?
Well, yeah, with the series now and everything.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, we have like. I was thinking like, all right, like we set up a number of these sort of encounters for Chosen to get like one over.
I feel like there's one too many because Daniel comes off looking like a wiener.
You know, it's funny. I'm glad you said that because I like clocked it, and I was wondering why I clocked it. I was like, maybe
I feel like you need one.
Maybe it's one too many. Yeah. Maybe you do two, and then the end is like the square off with all that or something.
See, I feel like you do the weight thing where he gets one over on him, and then you get the thing where Chosen like beats the shit out of him right there, and then the ice.
Yeah, it takes all his money.
Yeah, but there's like another one after that, right?
Yeah, that's my memory from like 2 nights ago. I should remember that. But I like this tea ceremony thing.
Yeah.
You know, like it's sweet them glimpsing Miyagi and his long lost love. Well,
See,
and I actually, yeah, go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
Well, no, because then we see Kamiko doing the same ceremony with Daniel. And
yeah.
I got to be honest, in my ignorance, I didn't know if this was something the movie was making up and trying to seem like, hey, we're doing something authentic here, or if it was like real. And so I Googled it. I wanted to learn. And it is real. And I actually watched a whole video of people who are like experts on that ceremony watching this scene or the scene with Daniel and Kamiko and sort of critiquing it lovingly, but critiquing it. And I thought it was kind of fascinating.
That was actually what I was going to ask was, so is that something that people in the culture would be like, yeah, none of that makes sense. So I'm glad that you see that. Look at that.
See,
we were on the same wavelength.
I'm glad that you didn't know either. I'll just say that. And because, yeah, this movie, I was alluding to it earlier, but it goes so hard on honor and how far these grown men, like in their 60s, who should just be happy they own a town and have people under their thumb. I mean, come on, just at least enjoy it. But
you're a crime lord. Enjoy it or whatever.
But I was like, so, I mean, I don't know. Like, is it possible or realistic, you know, this degree of slavishness to honor? And then I was reading through other people's, you know, who knows, I don't know, just stuff on the internet, but most people were like, no. So I was like, okay, you know, like I don't know the culture. And so likewise with the tea thing, I thought that was really nice, but I wondered if that was something
sure
invented to sort of be like, oh, she's doing something in quotes traditional, so we get to know that they're falling in love. But no, it turns out that actually is a genuine ceremony.
Okay. Oh, see, that's good. Well, we know that fighting for honor mattered to Peter Cetera, if nothing else.
That's right. That's right.
So that's important.
Yeah. Is this where the song starts playing?
It's right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched the music video.
What is it?
Well, it's just an 80. The type.
Oh, it has the clips.
Yeah, it's Peter Cetera singing with clips from Karate Kid Part 2. And I'm like, this is just incongruous. It doesn't fit to me at all, you know?
It's something like a little more upbeat, you're thinking?
It's meant to, it sort of revolves around the Daniel Kumiko love story, which, being honest, it doesn't really do much for me.
You know, it gets close. It gets close for me, but I agree with you that it doesn't quite go over the top for me. But they're cute together, but I wish I did feel a little...
Maybe the song would have been better in Over the Top.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I didn't quite get where with him and Allie in the first one, but it's sweet.
Yeah. It's like, it's fine. It's funny because I was watching this with Amina and I was like, yeah, it's weird how he just rebounds after Allie and he right away jumps into a new romance. And Amina's like, no, they're not. It's not romance. They're like brother and sister. I'm like, it's like a Luke and Leia brother and sister thing. They swap spit.
Okay, that's fascinating. That's well. There you go. I mean, that there's the chemistry.
Right.
Measurement right there.
Right after they kiss, Kumiko's like, it's like kissing my brother.
Yeah. That was like a total catchphrase in the 80s. It's in a lot of films.
Didn't every movie have that? Yeah.
But no, I did think like well, what are they going to do after this when he goes home? And I thought it'd be funny if in the third film it starts with him pulling up at Miyagi's house. He's like, you won't believe it. Kumiko crashed my car. She stabbed my dog. Like that's how they dispose of all of his love interests.
All of it.
At the beginning of the next movie.
Yeah, I think like in the third one, the female lead is played by Robin Lively, and she was like 17 or something.
Oh, interesting.
Like she was a kid, so that like they don't even have a real romance because it would have been super weird,
Oh, really? So they're just kind of like pals?
Yeah, but she's supposed to be like the same age as
sure.
as Dan,
right? I
right?
see, but they just technically don't show them being like too intimate because that would be strange.
Yeah, and as my recollection is that the character disappears like before the third act. Yeah, because she was she was like 17 when they made the third one. Yeah. See, here's the so I didn't realize we were going to spend so much time talking about the third one, but the third one came out 5 years after the first one.
Wait, say it again.
The third one came out 5 years later, so 89.
Okay,
but it's set the following year.
Oh, sure.
Because it's like the next year's All Valley, and I'm like, well, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just say, you know what I mean? Like,
it's okay to age him up a little bit,
right? Like, why don't you make Daniel, whatever, he's postgraduate or whatever, and do that story. So I always think about that. I thought about that as a kid. I was like, it's clearly not a year later because he's grown and he's heavier, and like
right.
Very odd.
Yeah, it is kind of like I keep going back to the Future, but with Marty, 5 years later, or 4-ish years later in part 2. I mean, he's a man. Yeah. He's not a 17, 18-year-old kid, but it just Michael J. Fox was right at that moment where we're still willing to buy it. Or you squint and be like, we don't care. It's Marty.
Well, and it's a weird thing because like, at least with the sequels, you just sort of forget that Marty's supposed to be a teenager.
Yeah, because you don't see him around a high school.
Exactly, right? He's just Marty.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe that's part of the secret sauce.
I guess so. Jeez.
Real quick, did you see B.D. Wong earlier?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to call him out.
I think this was his first movie too.
Wow.
B.D. Wong, who gone on to become, the de facto big bad of the Jurassic franchise.
Yeah.
Who saw that coming?
I know. Now this set piece is just like perfection to me.
Yep.
I mean, we've already know that these guys can't stand each other. We're in this really interesting setting with like this really compelling challenge that I've never seen before, but that is so specific to the skill set of our heroes, like it's, and like the music is so good. I remember, even before seeing it, like from 20 years previous, I remembered the music in this scene because it's so good. And then just the escalation, and then it's like, Miyagi shows up, and then Sato shows up, and like everyone just waiting for the thing to happen. But it's like, it reminds me of like the some of the best moments with the Jedis where we're ready to see them kick ass, but they're like, no, we're gonna like pray first, we're gonna like concentrate, and you're like, oh no, something really awesome's about to happen.
Right.
We give that little pause to like get us ramped up, and like seeing him and Miyagi do that sort of focusing thing together. I adore this scene. I remember that from a kid adoring it, and it completely held up for me as an adult.
Yeah, no, well, it's like I said earlier, I think it's one of the best parts of this movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just picking up on what you're saying. It's unique to the identity of these films. Like it feels very organically a part of this universe.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, these are not crazy shots, but they're very compelling. The way, like seeing him side by side with Miyagi and the ice right there, that's some great blocking. And then I love this blocking with Sato there. Like, like we're seeing out of focus Daniel's, hand movements, things, but we're watching Sato through the crowd, like watching, observing, thinking something. There's something on his face. Yeah. Chosen cackling in the background. A+, man. I love it. I'm getting like hyped up just watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, see that I remember is in the video game.
Yeah.
It was like it wasn't like it was like a between levels thing where you have Daniel break the ice.
I remember that. Yeah, but you just know, like, oh no, like taking all the money. Chosen's gonna be so pissed.
See, so you look at Sato. I'm like, you a grown ass man.
I know.
It's like, dude. See, I can roll with it with Chosen because he's a dumb kid.
Yeah.
But Uncle, come on.
Yeah. And see, that's nice. He gets his money back for his college tuition after he spent that money on the plane ticket.
I think that's a nice little gesture. And what is it like? How much money does he get?
I don't remember.
It's 600, so it would be like 1,200 probably, right?
Wow.
He has to cover the bet, right?
Yeah.
So
not bad.
Not bad in 1986 dollars.
Yeah. Good point.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And it was funny too. BD Wong, I guess he was passing out the flyer for that sock hop, right?
Yes. But by the way, I should say, as soon as they were at the sock hop, I was like, I was thinking of you.
I was just gonna say, that's my common example of like this weird thing when you grow up in a certain era, you're learning about culture from someone who's like 20 years older than you. You know what I mean? Like the writers of your TV shows. So as a kid, I'm watching something that a 30-year-old remembers from when they were a kid. And some of those things like carry on through me, even though kids today would be like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like for me, for some reason, it was sock hops. And I don't remember where it came from, but now I'm realizing it was partially from here.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever go to a sock hop, Brian?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, the idea is so fun and magical and compelling to me for some reason though. So when I was writing for Puppy Dog Pals, I pitched a story that took place at a sock hop, even though I'm sure in 2025, a kid be like, what are you talking about? Yeah. I remember this, the Sato trying to break that log or whatever.
It's like a test of character for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And looking at it, you're like, you're not going to break that. Like it's just, so like, how long are you going to punish your hand? Like, But like this stuff feels a little bit more down to earth. Just the conversation between them, just this anger and hatred and clinging to the past. It's kind of nice. Nice moment.
I guess here's what I'll say. I guess I should feel lucky that I've never had a decades long feud with anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I've just lived an ordinary life, an ordinary non-feuded life.
Yeah, maybe we just can't relate.
Yeah. So, just take the W, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Miyagi says he left when he was 18.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he's, whatever he is in this. I'm probably in his 50s, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah. I looked it up. It was something like mid-ish 50s.
Okay.
Which is strange because at this point I have friends that are in their early 50s, and I'm like, holy crap! Like, well, Mr. Miyagi's age.
The fact that Ralph Macchio is quite a bit older now than Miyagi was in this, than Pat Morita was in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Just, looking at the sock hop here, like, there's just something. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with this is kind of like the music my parents were listening to in the car. So there's a lot of like nostalgia tied to it,
Right.
Like a lot of times when I'm in a friend's car and they want to put on like a satellite radio and they're like, pick a decade. I either go 60s or 90s. So
that's
stuff
funny.
from my youth.
Yeah. Yeah. I I read a thing a while ago that talked about how we basically stopped paying attention to new music after we turned 35.
Right.
And initially I was like, what? Now, come on now. But then I'm like, no, I think that's true.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
Right. Notwithstanding the odd thing that kind of catches your fancy, but I mean, you don't actively seek it out anymore.
I kind of agree. Because
you got your music. It's like, no, I got my music.
Yeah, you know what you're gonna probably queue up.
Exactly.
Every now and then when something's kind of blowing up, I'll be like, okay, let me give that a shot. Like just check it out in the car and see if I connect with it.
Yeah.
Maybe occasionally I do, but less often than not.
We're aging out, Brian.
I know.
Hate to say it.
Yeah, I know.
Now Earth Angel is playing in the background here.
I clocked that.
And Amina was like, "Oh, did they play? Is that because of Back to the Future?" And I was like, "Well, the song did exist before Back to the Future."
Yeah,
of course, it's a 1950s sock hop, so it makes sense that it would have Earth Angel, which is a great song, by the way. It's completely separate from Back to the Future. It's just a great song.
Yeah. But yeah, I was trying to think. So if this came out in '86, it's possible that this was being filmed while Back to the Future. I'm not saying that that's why they chose it, but it's like
in theaters,
they're a little closer than
all these movies intersected in this weird way.
Yeah. Just kind of cool to think about.
So we, as we were talking about earlier in this conversation, they made movies a certain way that we just have nostalgia for, and is that a reflection of the quality being better, or is that just a reflection of us imprinting on them at that time?
I'm willing to say both.
Okay.
I think a lot of it is the imprinting. But I do feel this is not, I can't say this to everything, but I do feel like there was a little more attention to cinematic effect in older movies, like just visual, more thoughtful visual sort of setups and executions, and tilting the camera to make you feel something.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see that as often anymore. And I can't say that's better or worse, but that is my preference. You know what I mean? And it's like these people who are making these movies, they were influenced by a certain set of movies. It kind of goes back to the sock hop thing, right? So it's like they were influenced by something that came before them that imprinted on me. And so that's what I feel like movies should look like. I feel like they should have that little bit of style, and not over style, but just some sort of style, a little panache, it's a visual medium. So let's involve that in the narrative, right?
Yeah.
But then you have younger people coming up and they're used to just shooting stuff with phones or watching things that have just been kind of shot with phones, and they might be thinking less about how to move the camera and more about just capturing something with the camera.
Right.
So
That's just a great point.
It's just different,
Yeah.
And I miss it. I prefer the previous style, but that could be what's happening. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, they're not better than Froggy. They're just different. Which I have a feeling a portion of our audience will nod knowingly.
Right.
And a portion will be like, I don't know what he just said.
I'm very curious.
That is a reference to Lethal Weapon 4.
Actually, why don't you explain it? It's a really beautiful moment that you and I actually talk about a lot. Really, I know it's funny, but it comes up in my life a lot. Why don't you go ahead and explain it for people who don't know?
Well, in Lethal Weapon 4, at the end of the film, you have Riggs, played by Mel Gibson. He's at his wife's grave, and he's telling his wife, I still love you, I miss you, but I'm in love with Lorna, and who's played by Rene Russo, and we're having a kid together. I don't know what to do. She wants to get married. And then at that point, Joe Pesci shows up as Leo, and he says, when I was a little kid, I had a pet frog. His name was Froggy, and I loved that frog, and I took him wherever I went, and he was my best friend. And then one day, the frog jumped out of the basket in his bike, and he accidentally ran him over with the front tire, and he died. And he thought, I'd never have a friend like this again. And then, much later in life, he met Riggs and Roger, and they treated him a lot better than he felt like he deserved, and they became his best friends. And they weren't better friends than Froggy. They were just different. And I find, believe it or not, that is so applicable to so many walks of my life. It's kind of remarkable.
I can't tell you more than I ever would have imagined. I think about that.
I say all the time, not better than Froggy, just different. So
same. Yep. I gotta admit,
we were talking earlier about your sort of befuddlement at the idea that Chosen and Daniel become friends, and you watch a scene like this, and you're like, "God damn, this guy's an asshole."
Dude, I've talked about this before, where I have this really weird thing where, for example, in Batman Begins, when Wayne Manor gets burned to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's very cinematic and dramatic, and we will rebuild. But I can't help but feel the real world sort of feelings of like, oh, it's so much work.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole thing, it's gone, and you got to get tractors and move all the debris, and you got to get no more bricks. And I don't know, something about it exhausts me, or it feels. Yeah. And so, anyway, watching Chosen, like basically spear up and destroy this really old historic dojo here, like really bothered me. I was like, no, you can't replace that. That's really like this. Look, man, if you want to kick the crap out of them, that's one thing. But like this stuff has like been here a long time, and this is really disrespectful.
Well, a big part of his storyline in Cobra Kai is that, he's in love with Kumiko, and he tells her how he feels, and she doesn't feel the same way, etc. And I rewatching this, I'm like, bro, you put a knife to her throat and you cold cocked her.
That is great. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that'd be a hard thing to look past. I don't know.
Yeah, he like straight up punches her in this movie,
right?
So okay, this goes back to what you were saying. Also, good camera placement right there, right? I mean, again, I don't think movies think about that. They just kind of point and shake and shoot and try to go for this natural thing, which totally works for certain stories. But there's something about, no, put it low. It's going to make you feel a certain way. Strike the light that way. It's going to make it evoke a feeling. And watching Chosen with that spear to Daniel's neck, that framing alone makes me feel something. And that's the stuff I personally respond to.
Yeah.
But so you were saying, this is beautifully lit. Daniel isn't, Jet Li, basically. So, we have Pat Morita, as far as I can tell, doing a lot of the moves here, and you can kind of feel that. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
He's got as much power as Pat Morita can bring, and it's so like watching him kind of do these kicks and stuff. It doesn't.
Well, you can't have him like Yoda in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, bouncing off it.
But it wouldn't work.
But it's like a give and take, right? I do actually seeing him do this stuff. Like it feels powerful because I'm seeing the actual guy do the actual thing, but you kind of have to squint a little bit because he's not doing maybe enough to knock like a really ripped 28-year-old guy to the ground,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a tough. I mean, look, people's expectations were probably just kind of different in the 80s too.
Yeah.
Although this is a post Bruce Lee reality.
That's true. Unless you're like, well, yeah, but that's Bruce Lee. Like there's
sure
he's on an island or something. I don't know.
No, I mean, that's possible. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think like who were the martial artists of note during this specific era? Like,
Chuck Norris.
Yeah, I guess Chuck Norris. Well, supposedly, like Chuck Norris, there was this rumor that he had been offered the role of John Kreese in the first film, and he turned it down because he said it disrespects karate. And Norris said that it's not true. He was never offered the role. However, he would have turned it down for that same reason. So
because it disrespects karate.
Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah. I didn't say it, but I would have said it. See, I eat up all of this. Like I really buy into this relationship.
But did you, as a 6-year-old, were you like,
not on the same
to Miyagi and Yuki?
I'm sure no.
Okay.
I can't imagine I did. I mean, probably the movie I saw right before this was like Fall.
You didn't lean forward, kind of rubbing your chin.
Yeah.
In rapt fascination, you know.
Yeah. No, I doubt it.
What's gonna happen at the Oban dance?
Yeah. I would actually, I'd love to interview myself about these movies and just sort of see what I said. Because like I was saying, like right before this, I remember seeing Fall That Bird in the theater, probably around this time. And it's like Big Bird was gone and now he's back. That's probably like how I felt about things.
I took my daughter to see Thunderbolts, and I mean she's 8, so it's a little bit older, but she was surprisingly like engaged on. She's like, yeah, Bob's dark side is something that he hid away because his dad was mean to his mom. I was like, holy shit.
It's kind of true though, isn't it? A lot of times kids will surprise you how much they're actually tracking.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of impressed,
Yeah. Well, you know what? And that kind of makes sense. I mean, they'll track with what they're observing. But to your point, like 3 minutes ago, I didn't have the life experience that I'm probably now bringing to watching this sort of doomed romance and all that. So it, probably hits in different ways. But I'm sure as a kid I clocked.
So you weren't like, Miyagi shouldn't have stepped up to Sato's woman. There's consequences.
Right. Oh, as brothers and sisters do.
Well, that as was the style at the time.
Right. But yeah, this is another one of those moments where it's like, geez, no, like don't destroy this stuff. This is gonna take so long to clean up. But
come on, you're making a mess.
Yeah. But this does feel sort of 80s villain. Like, yeah, bulldoze the stuff. Screw you, town.
I'm just fascinated by Chosen's like pimpin' shirt right there.
Oh yeah, man, he's got some style.
Pretty sure I had a shirt like that.
Really?
I was rocking it in the 80s.
Yeah, like sort of it looks like kind of like a silk.
Yeah.
Button up short sleeve shirt.
Yeah. It was like a silk blend or something.
You know what shirt I always loved and wanted was Marty's in the 50s when he's talking to his dad about like the plan for the evening. He's got this like cool red button-up shirt.
I'm picturing it.
Yeah. When they're doing the clothesline thing.
Well, that's the thing. What I found about 50s fashions is that they hold up no matter when you wear them.
Yeah, some things are just kind of
right
classic.
I can't really do that with the 70s. Can't really do it with the 80s.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. Like 50s and 60s, I feel like that's sort of timeless.
That is so, I think that sometimes when I look at like the 70s and I'm like, really? Like people actually thought that those colors looked good? Like those pants, like that insane shirt. Like was that, I don't know what the equivalent was. Like you remember in the 2000s when kids were wearing those jeans that looked like they were wearing like a wall with a slit down the middle? It was like those huge, big jeans. And like even at the time we were like, I don't know. or some of us were. Like those crazy 70s shirts with the collars that went down to like their nipples. Like was that in the 70s? Did everyone just agree that was cool, or was that just sort of like a faction of people?
Well, that's how it always is, right? Like the quote unquote cool people decide what's cool.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have other people who are like, that's not cool. That's square. And they make the sign with their fingers.
Yeah. And then like animated version of a square appears as they move their fingers.
As was the style at the time.
Yes. But I was just talking about this with someone because they sent me, it was the Star Wars theme as a disco song. And like, people,
sure, I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that.
And I was like, isn't that fascinating too? Like disco music. It's a thing that cropped up.
Yeah.
And it existed and we have it on record. And then everyone decided they hated it. And now it has disappeared. Like disco is not a category at the music shop, or whatever anymore. Right? Like how often does that happen? Like a whole new genre or something, or I don't know.
Well, it's like we collectively, society decided this was a mistake.
Right. Yeah.
We have to ensure this never happens again.
Yeah. But blue jeans.
Think we need more. I think we need more of that. We need more collective recognition. We made a mistake. Let's not do this anymore.
Yeah, that's okay. We can acknowledge it, and that's part of healing. Well,
like I would say 70s fashions The most extreme elements of 70s fashions never came back.
That's a good point, because things cycle, right? When we were in the 90s, there was like 60s fashions coming back. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then now you saw recently like 90s fashions come back. But yeah, it seems like people skipped over the 70s.
Right. It's not like bell bottoms didn't really come back, and
Yeah, not necessarily.
layered collars and stuff,
Yeah.
White people with afros, that didn't come back.
Right.
Should be grateful for that, I would say,
Right. That's really funny. Anyway, so yeah, now we have the tea ceremony, which is sweet. Like we got, we sort of had it set up earlier where we saw it with Miyagi and Yuki. So we sort of know what this is. Part of me wonders too if this is sort of like, do you remember that Full House episode where it was like DJ like walked around a table 3 times and it's like, oh my gosh, you're married, like according to like Greek tradition or something. like not knowing what this was, I didn't know how serious it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is she expressing to him here? And I was imagining Miyagi walking by and being like, uh-oh.
Daniel-san, run like hell.
right, exactly.
You going to pay alimony?
Right.
But no, they're going steady. It's very chaste.
Yes, it's very sweet and kind of beautiful. But yeah, so that video, they went over this scene and they were critiquing everything. I mean, in good humor, but like, oh yeah, she did that with a napkin, right? Whoa, not that, like, or that wouldn't be downturned, or that you wouldn't put that on the table, or that. But and then the way that she turns the bowl and then they kind of turn the bowl back, it's sort of about the most beautiful part of the bowl being front facing to the person that you're facing. So I was like, oh, so there's like it's cool learning what every move meant.
See, I feel bad because I was going to be like, it'd be funny if the whole scene is just like a sex metaphor. Like, when you have like the train entering the tunnel and you're like, oh, I get what they're doing.
Exactly.
Apparently there's like cultural significance. And
no, but it's I love that though. If you don't know. she's dipping the water and putting it back.
Yeah, see, now view it through that prism. Suddenly, suddenly it's all dirty.
It doesn't even matter. Like now, it's just like, yeah, mixing the matcha.
If you know what I mean.
Yes, you just got to add that to everything. Now she turns the bowl 3 times. If you know what I mean.
So I was looking at Tamlyn Tomita's credits, and I found this fascinating. She among her credits is voice work on the Karate Kid animated television series.
Oh, no kidding!
Where she voiced additional characters.
Well,
now, not for nothing,
right?
But if you're doing a Karate Kid animated series and you have one of the only star from the films,
yeah, you make her a damn character.
Make her a character,
yeah.
If not this character,
right.
That show also it would have these little interstitials at the start of the episode. So it would show like clips from the episode, and it would be a voiceover from Mr. Miyagi being like, on today's story, me and Daniel-san, spanked the monkey or whatever, like whatever happens that episode. It's like
the scene you're watching right now, isn't it? It's just it put your brain in a lane.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but that the voiceover was Pat Morita.
Okay,
but the voiceover during the show was some. Whoever was doing the voice of Mr. Miyagi.
Didn't they do that with Back to the Future?
I was gonna say, so it reminded me of Back to the Future. This is the old bait and switch,
Yep.
Because the Back to the Future cartoon would open and close with these live action segments with Christopher Lloyd introducing the episode,
mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, well, obviously he's doing the voice, but in fact, it was Dan Castellaneta doing the voice of
crazy Homer Simpson.
Doc. Yeah.
Yeah, did Doc? He did Genie, right? In the Aladdin
yes,
sequel?
Genie. That's right. The Aladdin sequels, yeah, and the animated the TV series.
Yeah. What was impressive in this moment before CGI? The scene where we're watching them do the innuendo tea ceremony, according to Zaki. What I love is it begins kind of moody. with the weather and whatever. Like, it just feels very intimate and kind of heightened and romantic. But it is slowly escalating into a storm.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
That's impressive.
It doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, just I don't know, the way they convey that, and they don't have the computers to change the backgrounds in the windows. Like, however they did that, I think it's really elegantly done.
Well, and this whole sequence is pretty effective, I think. As I think this is the dramatic high point of the film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great.
Right. So I think, to your point, that's what makes the final act throwdown feel sort of perfunctory.
Right.
Feels like like you got to check that box.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this movie held up in my mind, and why, even though I look at it a little bit like, oh, okay, maybe it's a little cartoonier than I remembered in detail, but there's so many. Daniel and Miyagi are still great throughout this entire film. Their dynamic is fantastic. I'm always happy when I'm spending time with them, but there's so many strong moments in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the ice sequence, and then this typhoon sequence, and say what you will about the ending, but it is memorable, and so, the everyone in the crowd with the drums, and, so there's so many things that I think you walk out and you go, oh, that moment was great. Oh, that moment was great.
Yeah.
And you kind of forget about the tendons holding it together. Yeah.
Well, right. I don't think this is a bad movie by any stretch. I think it's a lot of fun to watch, and we can have fun picking at the various things, but I think that's the fun of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a better movie than the third one, but I think the third one is very watchable in a pulpy bad movie kind of way.
Sure, if you know what it's not the first one and know what you're getting into.
I think the first look, it's again the Rocky comparison abounds, right? It's like, look, Rocky 4 is a very different animal than Rocky 1.
Yeah.
They're both very watchable, but you got to know that you're singing from two different hymnals.
I like that expression. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I like that. But yeah, I mean, this is again where it's like, but this is very compelling, and I love this. Where, first of all, I mean, Chosen, like, yeah, he's dead. Trust me. Like, obviously not. So I don't know how close he looked, or if you're just scared of the thunder.
His arms are flailing. He's like, "Help me! Help! Oh. My uncle's dead! Help!"
Right. But yeah, so you got Sato.
Chosen says it louder because his uncle's screaming, "He's dead!"
Yeah, help, dead.
Drown.
Yeah. No, I'm not. But yeah, having him under that beam, and it just seems a little crazy. He's like, just leave me. It's like, are you out of your mind? Like, no, we can get you out of here. But there's something cool about Miyagi breaking the beam that kind of resembles the beam that Sato couldn't break.
Yeah.
And then this, I mean, this
like that.
That's great. But this is harrowing, hearing a little girl screaming in the middle of a storm high up on this rickety ladder. And then, being in this bunker, there's like something really, I don't know, just delicious about like the village is in this place, and this drama is taking place in the middle of this crowd, contained in this small room, where it's like, go help that girl, and Chosen like, no, backing away. But Daniel go out there. He's the Karate Kid.
Our man Daniel.
Yep. Yeah, this is good stuff. Good set piece.
They're built from sterner stuff in Reseda, I'll tell you.
Exactly. Oh, I forgot to tell the story, but when I was working on this movie and I was like running errands, I was a PA, I had to go to Reseda. And I said to the guy who, was going to send me there, I was like, Reseda, isn't it? Yeah, it's like Karate Kid, right? He's from Reseda. And it was like him and this production secretary. And they're like, oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Everybody remembered that line. And they're like, hey, and they gave me some cash. They're like, if you like go in a store and you see like a shirt that says Reseda, get it for me.
Do they have Reseda shirts?
I don't. Sometimes when you go to CVS or like a drugstore or something, and there will be like the name of the town you're in on a T-shirt,
but like Chicago, or I mean, it's not going to be like Wheaton.
Well, I was going to say, I actually do remember Wheaton shirts.
Really?
Yeah. So I think
Well, I stand corrected then.
I do remember not seeing a Reseda shirt though.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, but yeah, this is all good. This is all good drama. This is very embarrassing for Chosen. This is nice seeing Sato, even though, yes, he is having his Ebenezer Scrooge kind of, I'm sure everyone the next morning was like, what?
I know. Boy, what day is it? It's Christmas, sir.
Yes. Yeah. And after he was just like, in the name of honor, I have to kill you, Miyagi. In the name of honor, you must let me die. Like, you know what?
Yeah. Pick a lane, buddy.
But you know what? I don't care. I don't. Like, speaking of the hymnal, like, I've acclimated to these songs. I'm on board. I will say when I was watching this, I was checking the time and there was only like 14 minutes left in the movie here. And I thought, wait, isn't there like a huge showdown at the end?
Not as huge as you remembered is the takeaway.
Yeah, like to me, in my memory, that was like the karate tournament again.
Yeah.
I mean, not exactly, not all the rounds and everything.
Sure.
I thought it was longer than it really is. Here we go. He's a new man.
This really, I mean, somebody set the switch to evil, like.
Yeah. I mean, he is. He's having like a Saul to Paul moment here. And it's like, that would be funny. Is like, no, call me, something else now. I'm not going to even try to make up anything.
It's like, when Homer asked Mr. Burns to sponsor the bowling team.
Yes.
Because he was hopped up on goofballs or something.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, again, this does feel almost like Saturday morning cartoon logic with the bad guy.
Yes, exactly.
But I don't care. I acknowledge it, and you are correct. I'm not saying you, but the royal you. Yes, you are correct. But like Daniel being like, this is really, yeah. Hey, can we have the ceremony at the castle? They're like, yes, you can. We'll have the ceremony at the castle every year.
Have the ceremony.
Yeah, henceforth.
And you will dance, and I will dance. Everybody will dance. Isn't it a beautiful day?
Exactly. And then he kind of skips away whistling a tune.
and we see at the bottom of the screen, something, whatever what's the song from The Naked Gun?
Something tells me I'm into something. It's a little block at the bottom. Yeah. Oh, man.
Here's what I'll say. I think that Miyagi is so good, right? That it's gratifying that just through the power of his personality and just remaining who he is, he's able to change Sato.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you think about it, why does Daniel go out there and why does he save the girl? It's because of who Miyagi has made him.
That's a great point.
Right?
The way that he reacts, the way he's been, side by side with Sato, he elevates everyone else around him. Exactly. And even the plot points of the movie, because to your point here, it's kind of insane that this high school kid from Reseda would go out for a battle to the death, but because Miyagi's like, yes, go.
Yeah.
You're sort of like, okay, well, he should probably go.
That's right.
You believe it.
That actor with the glasses, by the way, I remember him from Gung Ho.
Oh, yeah. I just recently watched that.
Yeah. That was I remember we talked about it. We were like, is this racist?
Yeah. It's like possible.
I don't know that we settled the question. I think it hangs in the air still.
I guess the real question is, did they mean it to be racist?
That's a good point.
I don't think so. And it was we talked about it, but it was fun seeing Michael Keaton in a gear that I'm not used to seeing him in. Like everyone always talks about, he's this comedian, and I'm just kind of used to him from my age, Beetlejuice and beyond. Yeah. So I know him with a little bit of darker edge and whatever, but seeing him be pure manic comedian in that movie was kind of fascinating.
He is very funny in that movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's like Jim Carrey in that movie.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, say what you want about anything else, I think it's worth watching just to see Michael Keaton being absolutely hilarious.
Agreed.
So that red jacket, if I recall, that was at least one of the versions of Daniel you could get in the action figure line.
Yeah. Good call. Man, I wish I had all that stuff still.
That stuff probably goes for a fortune at this point.
I wonder. Yeah.
Those figures.
Yeah, now that it's kind of popular again.
There was Miyagi, there was Sato, there was Chosen.
Yeah.
Right. And then they had the whole All Valley tournament playset.
Yeah, and they weren't like the 3, what do you call it? The 3-inch or whatever.
Like G.I. Joe size?
Yeah, they were like
they were bigger.
Yeah, they were like the original G.I. Joe size.
They were like no, they weren't that big. They were like probably like 5 inches, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But they had like these action features where you could have them like break boards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that. And
they had soft goods jackets. I remember that too.
Yeah. This is pretty cool. Like her doing the dance and him in the background.
Doing like a Ethan Hunt off the...
Yeah. But I like that you have to catch it. You know, they don't just sort of, as this is happening, and then they cut to him like slowly rising over a wall and entering. It's like we're lingering on her dancing and your eye has to catch him in the background sliding into frame, which I kind of like.
Now, we're Chosen right there. He says, "I cannot hear you, Uncle. I'm dead to you, remember?"
Yeah.
I have to say, he's got him there.
It's a pretty badass line. I love that. In the court of law, he's got him. That's good. He's got him there.
But Chosen goes from like sort of, you know, high-spirited dick to murderous asshole like pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, in the tone of this world, I mean, he has been humiliated multiple times. Clearly takes honor pretty seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he thinks this is going to get him his honor back. That doesn't make a lick of sense, but...
I mean, I think you as the audience are supposed to be like, it's Japan.
Right.
Which I think Japanese people would be like, pardon me?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? This is the 80s. It wasn't like, you know,
no, we would
century, you know?
Yeah, we would subdue him and he would go to jail. Yeah. Man, I remember, I probably watched this so many times.
This scene?
Yeah. I mean, this movie, but this scene, I remember this scene. Like, I can hear it. Like, all the sound effects and everything, even as I'm watching it on mute. But you gotta wonder, I mean, if I was Miyagi, they should have, like, done a shot. Because, like, yeah, he's, this guy wants to fight Daniel to the death. And he's like, not only that, join me out, you know, and there's this moat. Remove the bridge. We're going to settle this until one of us is dead. And it would be kind of funny if they cut to Miyagi and he's like, ooh, his mom's going to kill me.
Yeah, I was about to say, right? Like if something happens to Daniel, I'm imagining the phone call to his mom. Like she's like, oh, you're going to spend the summer with Mr. Miyagi in Japan. He's like, so Daniel fight for honor and he defended honor well, but mistakes were made.
Yeah. If this was 2025, it would be funny if she like FaceTime Miyagi in this moment and he just picked up like, we'll call you back.
Things are fine. It's all fine now. How are you?
Right. Yeah. I mean, because again, as a kid, I was just like buying all of this. But like, yeah, now as an adult, I'm like, Miyagi, dude, no, you probably should have gotten him out of
picturing there. Miyagi FaceTime. You see he's center frame his face, and you just see like Daniel and Chosen just flying back and forth behind him.
Help!
Help! Mr. Miyagi, help!
I don't want to die.
Jeez.
Dude, this is great. I love this. And I gotta say, I'm gonna be that guy. I keep repeating myself, but like, I just don't feel like the same care is put into visuals and like smoking things out and having the stuff out of focus in the foreground and whatever. And I mean, look at this thing with like Chosen out of focus, Daniel, the smoke, and then him coming into like, it really sells what we're doing here. You know what I mean? Yes. It goes a long way in immersing us in this reality.
That being said, I agree with you shot wise. However, wouldn't Chosen also know the drum technique? Like, why wouldn't Chosen be like, oh, I should do the drums?
He's like, oh, they're all encouraging me. Yeah, he's getting the wrong message.
Right? That's number one. Number two, this right here, why would you do this in shot reverse in close-up as opposed to doing a wide? At least give us a little bit of a wide so we can see what the hell is happening.
Maybe they have the wide, Zachy. I'm going to submit. Maybe they have, and they're like,
It didn't look great.
Maybe, I don't know. But actually, it probably did, because that looks fine.
That was my thought, because I couldn't, what was happening, you know?
Sure, but that goes to the sort of murkiness of what exactly drum technique is.
Okay, fair. That's fair.
Well, no. You're right, because we know what he's doing, so you could show it clearly. But earlier it was more of like a evasive sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this is like an attack.
Well, it's like Daniel-san beat him like a drum. That's what I
right.
That's what I assumed.
Right. It is kind of, but it's powerful though, right? Again, in the movies, if we're in its reality, like just seeing everybody there doing the drum thing together, and it's a rousing ending, I think.
I agree. Although, I wonder if I would have liked to see them leave. I would have liked to see Miyagi and Sato part as friends. And I would have liked to see some resolution to the Japan storyline.
I don't disagree. I do think this is nice because it leaves you. I mean, seeing Miyagi smile again and, cutting out while my heart's still racing, there is something to be said for that. But this is a different animal than the first movie. And it might be nice to see. Well, I mean, what is he going to do with his former flame? Is she going to come with him or like?
Well, I as far as I know, no, because she's not, she's not in the third one that I recall.
I wish she had come, and then Miyagi pulls up with his busted car.
Yeah.
He's like, you won't believe.
She break car, Daniel-san. Yeah.
Right.
And then she cheat on me with Sato.
Right. Well, as credits are rolling, I want to bring up this story because wait, were you going to say something?
I was just like, here's the song, the Oscar-nominated Peter Cetera song.
Yeah, which is great. I just wanted to bring up, I thought this was an interesting little tidbit. So when this movie came out in 1986, they offered a free screening that anyone could go to. And It was, it was in celebration of Liberty Weekend, which was a 4-day celebration held to mark the 1984 to 86 restoration of the Statue of Liberty. So they had, for July 4th weekend, they called it Liberty Weekend. And in celebration of that, they said, our way of thanking America, Columbia Pictures, said, we're going to hold a free screening of Karate Kid Part 2. Anybody who wants to go can just go see it for free.
Wow.
And, in the statement, they said, we've got a Japanese-American star, an Italian-American star, and a Jewish-American producer on this movie. And we've all had families come through there by the Statue of Liberty. So it was in celebration of that. And I thought that was kind of cool, actually.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good way to wrap up this discussion.
Yeah. That's the times I want to live in.
It's a time I wouldn't mind going back to.
Yeah.
So we've gotten a sense, but what are your thoughts on Karate Kid Part 2? Some 30, what is it? 44 years after its release.
Wow.
No thoughts, right?
Oh! I'm sorry. I thought you were posing that to the audience for people to write in and share their thoughts. I was like, yeah, I'd really love to hear that too.
I was like, I'll let Brian ponder.
No, I do think this series goes from relatively grounded human drama to a little bit of a caper in Japan, and I acknowledge that. But like I said, I think the leads are just so damn compelling and so lovable, and I enjoy spending time with them and just enjoy observing their chemistry. It's just so fun. And there's enough great moments that happen in this movie that over dinner, if I'm thinking about this movie, I'm probably just going to remember the good stuff that puts it over the top for me, while acknowledging that, yes, I mean, it is also a little, it's certainly sillier than the first one, and maybe just a little bit silly, period. So yeah. Ultimately, thumbs up from me, but I acknowledge that could be nostalgia talking.
Well, I think once you decide to take the Karate Kid ride, I mean, you gotta make all the stops.
Yeah.
And what I will offer is that if you plan to watch Cobra Kai, well, you really got to watch all the movies.
Sure.
So I think if nothing else, we say, well, this is one more opportunity for you and I to have a conversation, and it just tees us up to talk through the third one whenever we get around to that.
I'm into that. I need to revisit that for sure.
But going back to what Brian was alluding to before, let us know your thoughts, listeners, to Karate Kid Part 2. And let us know your thoughts about our thoughts. You can email us at moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit like on our Facebook page, facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast, and message us there. As always, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review, leave a star rating. Every little bit helps. We also have a Patreon page, Brian.
Yes, we do. If you head over to patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast and hit subscribe for only $5 a month, you'll find every commentary we've ever done and every episode moving forward absolutely ad-free. The free feed will always be available, but this is our way of providing what we believe is the most satisfying way to enjoy the show. No interruptions, no ads. Plus, your subscription goes a long way in helping to support us and helping to sustain producing the show. So if you're interested and able, please head over to patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast and hit subscribe. We'd be very grateful.
There you go. And if you're looking for me online, you can find me on social media at Zacky's Corner. That's ZAKIS Corner. You can also read my reviews at the San Francisco Chronicle, The Wrap, and also at IGN. Brian also has some stuff out there.
Oh, yeah. Episodes I've written of Young Jedi Adventures are available to stream on Disney+.
There you go. And with that, on behalf of my partner Brian Hall, my name is Zachy Hassan. This has been our movie film commentary track for Karate Kid Part 2. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, folks.